Okay. Okay. I wasn't gonna do this. I wasn't going to make a video. Uh, I was gonna probably just make like a long Twitter thread, or I was gonna write something down in the notes app and share my opinions on this quote unquote film on Twitter, and just put like a community post or something, sort of directing you guys there. Um, but then I realized that this film does not deserve the fucking effort it would take me to sit down and to write out a full script, or write out uh, my feelings. Um, so I decided just to sit down and talk. Now, you might be asking why this is on my live channel and not obviously the main channel. And the answer to that is very simple. This movie does not deserve to be on my fucking channel. It doesn't. It does not deserve to be on my channel. It doesn't deserve the time, the effort that it would take to make a proper video. It doesn't deserve anything. I don't have a script. I don't even have notes. This is the first time I've ever just sat down in front of my laptop and just hit record. I've never done this before, but it doesn't deserve anything. It doesn't deserve the time of day it would take to make a proper fucking video. So this video is going to be very lazy. It's going to be very lazy because this is a lazy movie. Um, you know, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why even talk about it, right? Why even go through this much just to sit down and talk to get this done? Why does this film even deserve this much effort from me? And it doesn't. It really doesn't. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of like the Crow guy on YouTube. Maybe that's tooting my own horn a little bit too much, right? But I would say most people who come over to my channel, definitely whenever like I live stream or anything, they always say, "Oh, they found me from the Crow video," or they say, the Crow video is their favorite. Um, that video was my whole reason for starting a YouTube channel. So I think, despite my feelings of this film, it would be a disservice to you guys if I didn't put my thoughts and opinions out there, because I've had people reach out to me. You guys have reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're waiting to hear your opinion on this film." So here it is. This is going to be very sloppy. It's probably going to be all over the place. But again, this film doesn't deserve anything better. I'm going to talk about this in two different segments. First, I'm going to talk about the film on its own as a standalone. And then I'm going to compare it to the comic and the first movie. Because after all, Rupert Sanders said that this is an adaptation of the comic, right? But when you try to compare it to the movie or to the comic, people get angry and they say, "Oh, you can't compare it to this. It has to be its own thing," even though that goes against what the director said. But I'm not here to argue. I'm just here to talk. So I watched this last night at around, I think it was probably midnight. Watched it with the girlfriend. We pirated it, and I'm not afraid to say that. I don't care. Do you think this film deserved my fucking money? You're out of your mind. So we watched it last night, and I'm going to say this now, and you can believe me or you don't have to believe me. Whatever. You do you. But I truthfully and honestly went to this as unbiased as I possibly could. Of course, I think, when you have so many reservations, it's impossible to go into anything completely unbiased. I can't wipe away all of the bias I had in my brain for a film. But I truthfully and honestly sat down and began to watch this, and I tried to block all that out and just give this a real chance. Just really let it do its own thing, and let it get into my head and be like, okay, this is what it's doing. I stopped doing that about halfway through because I realized, even if I hold back all my biases, this is just an awful, awful film. It is poorly paced. It's poorly acted. Bill Skarsgård gives a very, very, very subpar performance in this film. And I don't blame Bill. I don't. I blame Rupert Sanders because he is a horrible director, an awful director. He couldn't direct a fucking middle school showing of Hamlet if his life depended on it. He couldn't. He doesn't know how to get human emotions out of people. He is bad at his job, and he has failed every time he's tried to do his job, and he should stop doing it. The soundtrack is awful. There's not a single memorable track on the thing. The film jumps all over the place. The relationship between Eric and Shelley is so forced and so rushed. It feels so unnatural. The action, all apart from the opera house scene, which is pretty much the only thing they show in the trailer, because, oh yeah, Bill doesn't become the Crow until the last 20 fucking minutes of the film. All of the action was disappointing. There was no emotion to the film. In part due to Bill's performance, in part due to Rupert Sanders being a horrible director, but there's no emotion to anything. Everyone is monotoned. No one gives a memorable performance. The villain is so fucking forgettable. I don't even remember his name. I know they said it. I don't remember it. So forgettable. Just a generic B-list villain. Pretty much, I think I said this in the Crow remake video. When I read the leaks initially and they kind of described the villain, I said he sounds like the fucking dude from the second Ghost Rider movie who has like the scarlet rot and he like touches people and they rot away. It's not quite that, but it's pretty similar. He's a very generic villain. There's no spirit. There's no emotion. There's nothing that connects to you. There's nothing that makes you feel something. It's all just, it's just blah. It's just bland. It's there's nothing to it. There's no soul to it. Again, this is gonna be very lazy, and I'm trying to get my thoughts together, but it's just, I don't know how to describe truly how awful this film is. It's so much happens in this film that's just nothing. Like for so long, just nothing happens. It takes forever to get to the point where Eric and Shelley are killed. There's so much useless bullshit that happens beforehand. And when it finally gets to that point, it's just kind of like, it's such a sloppy scene. And when Eric finally dies, it completely fails in every direction it was trying to do. It felt like there was two different movies happening here, and neither one were particularly good. But one is just a standard, almost kind of like John Wick copycat, a knight in shining armor, boy has to save girl story. And the other thing's trying to be something of a Crow movie, but it fails in both directions. At no point in this film did I look at it and I go, oh, this is a Crow movie. It looks nothing like anything you would know or you would think of the Crow. It's, there's no gothic settings. There's no like a big part of the original. And I guess I'll bring the original into this now. A big part of what worked like in the comic and the original movie, and even like the sequels, was that the setting felt very run down, and it felt the world felt as sick, as rotted away as the characters did, right? And here, every setting is like this Victorian, like mansion place, like these like elaborate buildings, these opera houses and stuff. Like Eric and Shelley stay in like this mansion that Shelley just happens to like bum off of a dude. And it feels so out of place. Like nothing about it is gothic, which is a big part of The Crow. They give Shelley a subplot where they basically like, she gets involved with the villain at some point in her past, and the villain kind of like influences her to do something bad. So the villain kind of finds her and basically he kills her, so her soul goes to hell, and so he can live for another 100 years or some bullshit. He's basically Dracula. Like he does this weird blood swapping thing with the people he kills, and he sends their souls to hell so he doesn't have to go to hell. They never explain fucking anything. They never explain a thing of why what's happening is happening. No, nothing like that. So it's just up to your fucking imagination. It was stupid. It was a stupid subplot. It made Shelley seem like a bad person, and this whole subplot of Eric has to save her soul from hell, it feels very disrespectful, especially if you know why James O'Barr wrote the original graphic novel. It feels so out of place. Now, if I'm comparing it to the original, to the comic, or to the first movie, this is not Eric Draven. It isn't. This is just some whiny little fuck boy, little bitch who just whines every time he talks and is just annoying. Eric was kind of like this like one-liner, joke cracking guy who had fun in the destruction he caused. And this Eric is just fucking depressing. It's just like it's so bland to look at. The relationship between Eric and Shelley, which I kind of touched on this, but relationship between Eric and Shelley in this film versus what it was in the comic or the Brandon Lee film pales in comparison. Nothing about Shelley and Eric's relationship in this film feels organic. It feels super rushed. You don't feel the love that you felt in the other versions. Like I said, the villain is completely forgettable. Completely just generic, which is a shame because one of the highlights, especially in the film, was how memorable the gang was. Tom Tom, T-Bird, Fun Boy. That was one of the highlights, was how memorable they were. They had the whole fire it up thing from the movie. And it's just, they were very memorable villains. And here, this dude is so fucking forgettable. The final confrontation between Eric and whoever the fuck this guy's name is, it is so mind-bogglingly stupid and generic. It is so lackluster and anticlimactic, especially because it follows the only action sequence in the whole film, which is at the opera house, which you see in the trailer. That's the only real action sequence in the film. It is so anticlimactic. It's just this like cryptic bullshit where he's like trying to absorb Eric's soul, but Eric's love for Shelley, it kills his soul and sends him to hell. And it's like blah 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 fucking blah. And then at the end of the film, I guess this is a spoiler, even though I've kind of been spoiling it all throughout. Shelley comes back to life. Eric somehow saves her. And I said this in the other video. The idea that Eric can save Shelley completely goes against what the original graphic novel and movie was about. There is no saving Shelley. There's no happy ending. It's about Eric coming to terms with losing the best thing he had in his life. And it's about forgiving himself, right? That's what the horse represented. It represented, Shelley's death. And when Eric shoots her in the head at the end of the graphic novel, it represents how he needs to forgive himself for something that wasn't even his fault, but for what he nonetheless felt responsible for losing this beautiful thing that was his source of happiness and his reason for being. Um, and here it's just a generic, you know, a guy saves the girl at the end of the movie. She comes back to life and pretty much just shits on everything the original was trying to do. I touched on the music a little bit, but the music's horrible. Nothing memorable. Nothing, nothing compared to the original. No Pantera. No The Cure. Nothing. I'm not saying it needed to have those songs, but it should have had something memorable. And it's a horrible soundtrack. Horrible. They tried bringing some aspects of the graphic novel into the film, like they brought in the White Horse. They do kind of bring in, it's not the Skull Cowboy, but I guess it's supposed to be a character that kind of represents the Skull Cowboy. He was forgettable, just this just generic cryptic sort of you know, like gatekeeper of this sort of limbo area. Very forgettable, just had nothing really interesting to say. And I guess that's sort of the theme of this movie is just it's nothing interesting, has nothing interesting to say. I'm trying to think of other things to talk about, but it's just every aspect you could think of is bad. I'm trying to think, is there one positive I could say for the film? They change up Eric's healing factor. So in the movie, when Eric gets hurt, he actually feels pain, and it takes him like a little bit to actually heal. I thought that was kind of unique. But again, it's like one kind of interesting thing out of a 1 hour and 40-minute bullshit fest. And again, Eric doesn't become the Crow until the last about, I think, 20 minutes of the film. The entire time he's just running around and he's doing shit, but he's not in makeup and he's not the Crow. He's just this fucking little dweeb, basically, like a piss poor excuse for John Wick. And I'm thinking the whole time it was happening, why doesn't he already have the makeup on? Like, why isn't he already the Crow? He doesn't even have a crow. That's another thing I realized. He doesn't even have a bird with him. He doesn't have a crow. It's just nothing is good. I had bad feelings going into this. I came out with worst feelings. This is worse than I could have imagined. Everything you're hearing about people talking about this movie saying it's as bad as they say it is. It is. It is as bad as they say it is, and it's probably even worse. Do not see it. Do not see it. Do not give it your money. Pirate it if you want to watch it, but I don't know why you'd want to watch it. It's just a poor fucking excuse for a Crow film that fails as a Crow film and fails as a standalone film. Wipe away the Brandon Lee movie, wipe away any of the sequels, wipe away the comic from your mind. This fails as a standalone. As a standalone movie, it fails with its writing, with its acting, with its pacing, with its plot points, with its inconsistencies, with the soundtrack, with the villain, with the characters. It fails on everything. Some people might ask why I care so much. Why I should let this film like affect me. They say, "Oh, it's a reimagining." Right? It's a reimagining. Okay. Let me explain something. The name Eric Draven, that name, that means something to me. More than you'll ever know. That name means something to me. Okay? Those 6 words, it can't rain all the time. 7 words, sorry. Those saved my life. Okay? When I was sick and I was sitting in a hospital bed and I felt like my life was over, I told myself, it can't rain all the time. It can't rain it can't rain all the time. No, 6, I was right. I told myself, it can't rain all the time. And those words saved me. So the name Eric Draven, The Crow, as a franchise, it means something to me. At one point, it meant the fucking world to me. Because this is a series that saved my fucking life. And I full-heartedly mean that. And you could take your quote-unquote reimagining and shove it up your ass. Because quite frankly, this is insulting that it dares carry the fucking Crow name. And that it dares carry the name Eric Draven. Sincerely, fuck you. No, you don't deserve. You didn't fucking earn the right to call yourself that. That name fucking means something to me. It means the world to me. And you're going to sit here with this piss fucking poor excuse for a film. And you want me to give you the fucking light of day? Fuck you, Rupert Sanders. I hope you never work again. I sincerely hope that. You've proven you are not good at your job. I might have come off as harsh to Bill, and I don't want it to seem that way, because Bill is a great actor, and I just think he was given bad direction. Probably the same with FTA Twigs, however you say her name, TK Twig, whatever. This is a franchise that means the world to me. And it fucking hurts me that this is the video I'm making. It hurts. Sorry if this was sloppy. Sorry if this is not quite what you were expecting from me. I know I kind of lost my train of thought at some point in this video, but again, this doesn't deserve anything more than this. It doesn't. And that's all I have to say. This isn't going up on the main channel. This will go up on the live channel. I'll make a community post to link this here. These are my thoughts. These are my thoughts. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to put like a still image over this because, again, it doesn't deserve anything. I'll put like a denoise on this in Adobe Audition or something just to make it sound a little bit better. But that's all I'm going to do. I think that's all I have to say, quite frankly. It fails in every possible way. It fails as a remake, a reimagining. It fails as a standalone. It fails everywhere. Everywhere it fails. That's it.